Coming up on Grady Newsource. Athens-Clarke County's Jewish community remembers the victims of Hamas's attack on Israel 1 year ago today. We're live from the Linden House Arts Center, a polling location that offers Spanish ballots to voters.
And Appalachia High School's first football game since last month's tragic school shooting draws a significant crowd.
Stay tuned for more on Grady Newsource.
This is Northeast Georgia's only local source for TV news. From the Grady College of the University of Georgia, this is Grady Newsource.
Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to Grady Newsource. I'm Sydney Rainwater. Today marks 1 year since Hamas attacked Israel, killing about 1,200 Israelis and taking 250 hostages. The attack sparked a deadly war on several fronts with no end in sight. Grady Newsource reporter Keisha Chestnut tells us how Jewish students at the University of Georgia remember this day and tried to bring awareness to those still held captive.
Jewish students hand out yellow flowers with hopes of spreading light and showing their solidarity with about 100 hostages still remaining captive. Gabrielle Lefkowitz remembers this day 1 year ago when Hamas attacked Israel. Every time the Israeli Defense Forces will announce a new victim killed or kidnapped, she will lean on her friends during this difficult time.
We would all get that notification, scroll through the faces, zoom in, make sure that we didn't know anyone. And anytime any of us would get a call from our parents or our loved ones in Israel.
Shani Galad stands proud in her identity and recognizes her privilege to speak freely.
There's just been so many generations before me that couldn't be proud to be Jewish, and they had to be silent about it with literally fear for their life.
Gabrielle, whose own grandparents survived the Holocaust, shares how anxious and paranoid she felt after the attack occurred last October 7th.
It was so difficult for me to come to campus and see people protesting against Israel when we were still looking for friends of ours and family members that were missing. It was excruciating.
During the difficult moments, community is something they cherish. Hannah Refferson co-founded the Habab House to offer a community where every Jew is family.
So anyone that's ever come here knows, and we feel that they are part of our family, and they'll always leave an impact on us.
Places like the Habab House provide community for students like Shani and Gabrielle to cope during these times.
I don't think I would have been able to pick myself up and lift myself up to the point where I'm at today if I wasn't surrounded by so much love and compassion.
And most importantly, they have each other.
Student watching, I want you to know that you are not alone. You are part of a big family. We are one. We are united.
Keisha Chestnut, Grady Newsource.
Another community working to piece itself back together after heartbreak, Appalachia High School held its first football game since the tragic school shooting last month. Sports anchor Tori Newman attended the school's opening game. Tori?
That's right, Sydney. Appalachia football took on Jackson County after resuming its season on September 28th. Take a look. Hancock told me his team will need more than 4,000 people packed the stands in R. Harold Harrison Stadium to support the Appalachia football team, showing up in full force as they took on Jackson County last Friday in their first home game since the school shooting.
Finally get to play 7:30 on a Friday night, play on the Friday night lights, and just being resilient and just working and just playing with a lot of grit. And I think our kids showed that. First half I think we're a little bit more emotional.
Families are still left with a void.
Outside of a pregame moment of silence to honor the victims, the Wildcat crowd roared in support of its team all night long.
And those kids, they love to support us, and our football team loves them, and our cheerleaders. It was just a great atmosphere.
The Appalachia defense gave up 22 points to Jackson County's offense in the first half, forming a hole too deep for the Wildcats to climb out of as they lost 6-25. The team's losing streak has grown to 25 games. Coach Hancock told me his team will need to work on cleaning up defensive mistakes as they work towards getting that first win. I'll be back with more sports later in the show. Back to you, Sydney.
Thanks, Tori. Georgia voters, today is the last day you can register to vote in this year's presidential election. You can check your registration status online at georgia.gov, or you can stop by your county's registrar's office. Grady Newsource reporter Savannah Hernandez is live from the Linden House Arts Center, a polling location where registered Spanish-speaking voters are being accommodated.
Thanks, Sydney. Yes, people have until tonight to register to vote. But when you go to the polls this election season, you may notice something new. Starting this November election, Athens-Clarke County will be trying to level the playing field for their Spanish-speaking voters. For the first time, voting ballots will be available in Spanish, giving thousands of local residents a new option to make their voices count. For Charlotte Sosby, the effort goes far beyond logistics. It's about making sure every voter feels included.
Voters that, that don't speak English now, that can be the reason why they don't vote. I'm hoping that will give them a sense of comfort that, I also have when I go into the voting booth.
Athens-Clarke County is just one of 2 in Georgia to offer Spanish ballots. The elections office is working with state vendors like translators and linguists to ensure all materials are accurately prepared.
I think it's forthcoming and necessary for our community because we do have a Spanish-speaking community here in Clarke County.
Board of Elections member Hunaid Kadir initially voted against providing Spanish ballots, but has since supported the initiative. He said funding was his main concern and questions the specific demands for it in Athens.
I can only go by what our office staff here tells us, that no one has come in and had requested assistance in translation, because we can provide that. But I am totally in support of getting Spanish language literature and material out.
The Voting Rights Act requires states to provide materials in other languages when over 5% of the voting age population belongs to a single language minority group. Hispanics and Latinos make up a little over 11% of the population in Athens. For those who would benefit, feel this level of accessibility is important for their community.
And that they're going to want to come out more. And just like with people who are Spanish native speakers just like me, they'll feel that comfort.
With preparations underway and Election Day approaching, ACC officials are determined to make the voting experience accessible for all.
Siento como un privilegio de mirar mi lenguaje en esto, pues en el ballot.
And he said, it's a privilege to see my language on the ballot. People like him will be able to start their early voting next Tuesday, October 15th. Dates and times will depend on location, so be sure to check the Georgia.gov website for your county's information. Back to you, Sydney.
Thank you, Savannah. The White House issued a statement about federal funding for the victims of Hurricane Helene. The state 6,000 federal personnel are on the ground helping impacted communities, and hundreds of millions of dollars have been given to survivors so far, with more funds on the way. The Biden-Harris administration urges affected residents to apply for the FEMA assistance to help them recover from the hurricane. More hurricane relief news that's helping Georgians out. Governor Brian Kemp extended the state's state of emergency until this Wednesday, October 9th. This includes a suspension on fuel tax for the state. Since April, gas prices have already dropped almost 40 cents a gallon on average in the Southeast, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration. 2 Athens locals are sharing their thoughts on the recent price decrease.
Now we're in an interesting spot where gas prices are lower because of the whole Helene situation, which thoughts and prayers go out to everybody that's been affected. But yeah, driving a massive, I say oil rig, it's not that big, only 25 gallons. Filling this up, especially when it's around $3, $3.50, $3.99 as it was a couple of years ago.
It's definitely been a little bit beneficial with the decrease for my business. Doesn't take much to operate my outfit, but just in the long run, you're looking at gas prices and they jump 30, 50 cents. And they drop slowly, and I'm like, all right, there's no point of an increase if you're going to drop low. So I appreciate Kemp doing this, but I'm also like, why was it necessary to begin with? I liked it when it was low.
Prices will continue to be a hot topic on the minds of Georgians as we move into the voting period for this November's election. When we come back, we'll take a look at new additions being made to the Athens-Clarke County Police Department.
During high school, I hung with the wrong crowd and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually, once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
He was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers, he connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
I think I finally found.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Mason.
Hey, Mason. Got a new house. It's looking pretty cool so far.
Finally found a place that I call home.
I'm teaching Louise how to cook some lasagna.
It only takes a spark to make a fire start.
Thank you.
Study, please.
I think I finally found a place to make my own. A place that I call home. This place that I call home.
Implemented their real-time crime center this past May. Grady Newsource reporter Noah Bice went to show us how the center is already making an impact.
The Athens-Clarke County Police Department has begun construction on their new real-time crime center expansion. The center is still operating in a limited capacity, but is already being put to use.
While it's not fully operational yet, we still count kind of real-time crime center methodologies a success.
Crime and intelligence analyst Nick Barker is a part of the team that has assisted in solving over 170 cases since this past May using the real-time crime center. He says the center helped return stolen goods to residents of the Mark after a string of car break-ins. Worthen Evans, a resident at the Mark, didn't lose any property during the break-ins, but it's thrown him off.
But yeah, it's always a weird feeling knowing that someone's looking through your car windows, let alone lurking around the parking garage 100 feet away from where I'm sleeping.
Evans said the cameras used to help catch these suspects were added to the Mark this past summer. Despite these recent crimes, Evans says the police department's efforts have been the right decision.
But knowing that they're actually trying to cut down on thefts and just random break-ins, it's good. I like the initiative, yeah.
The initiative is in full force, as the crime center they do have is currently expanding, and Barker says it is expected to be done next fall. The expansion of the real-time crime center is giving local police more resources to keep the community safe.
And we really want businesses to partner with us so we can get with them and show them how this operates and how we can help make the area around their businesses safer and the community as a whole safer.
Noah Bice, Grady Newsource.
Speaking of safety measures, Grady Newsource reporter Elizabeth Rice shares what this Northeast Georgia school is doing to keep its students and staff safe. The Madison County Board of Education meeting is tomorrow at 7 at the county's Board of Education building in Danielsville. Parents are encouraged to participate and voice their concerns. St. Joseph's Catholic Church funds the Athens Catholic Radio. Grady Newsource reporter Christian Andrade shows us how Athens Catholic Radio is doing what they can to be self-sufficient.
We knew St. Joseph was the one really footing the bill for Athens Catholic Radio.
Justin Cardona is the Director of Religious Education at St. Joseph's Catholic School and Church. He's also a producer for Athens Catholic Radio.
So we decided let's first start with getting local advertising.
Technically, the Athens Catholic Radio can't do advertising.
It's not advertising because we're a non-profit organization.
But there is still a way they can generate revenue.
I know who will have an answer for it. Call Sebastian.
Calling Sebastian Villalta. Sebastian Villalta took over advertising and marketing for Athens Catholic Radio back in March.
Yo, I'm blanking. It's not an advertisement. What is it called? Because Underwriting. Yeah, it has to be underwriting because Athens Catholic Radio is a non-profit. Correct?
Do you even work for the radio station?
Is that right? Am I right?
Yes, you're right.
Okay, jeez, dude.
Athens Catholic Radio currently has 6 local underwriters funding the station.
Our goal is to evolve into creating local content.
Villalta says they want to better target the Athens community.
That's what I want Athens Catholic Radio to be like, is, hey, we are involved in everything Athens and everything Catholic.
According to the Pew Research Lab, about 8 in 10 Americans over 12 years old tune into terrestrial radio weekly. Athens Catholic Radio is a terrestrial radio station.
Very excited for it. If we keep this momentum, I really think that Athens Catholic Radio could be an Athens radio station.
Coming up after the break, weather reporter Colin Miller gives us the 5-day forecast and more information on incoming Hurricane Milton.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding. Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back. Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
My Shiro doesn't always wear a cape, but she always has time for a hug, a smile, for going the extra mile. My Shiro stretches every dollar, puts in long hours, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. When you're ready to retire, we want you to be able to enjoy it. It's time to start saving now. A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Happy Monday, everyone. I'm Colin Miller with the weather forecast. It's a beautiful sunny day today. Highs are going to reach around 88 degrees before temperatures drop to a low of 61 tonight. Tomorrow will be a little bit cooler. It's going to be mostly sunny with a high of around 79 during the day. Then skies will mostly clear up tomorrow night for a low of 56. We're going to have more clear skies, but temperatures are going to continue to cool throughout the week. On Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to have highs in the mid-70s at 76 and 75. Then those temperatures are going to drop to lows of 55 and 50, respectively. Friday is going to be the coldest day of the week. We're going to continue to have clear sunny skies, but we'll see a high of around 73 before the temperatures drop below 50 to a low of around 48 on Friday night. Now that cold front that's sweeping in will coincide with a major weather event occurring in the southeast this week. Hurricane Milton is expected to reach the coast of Florida by Wednesday. According to the National Hurricane Center, it's rapidly intensifying into a Category 4 with up to 175 mile-per-hour winds. It's not expected to reach North Georgia, but many Florida residents are being told to evacuate. After the break, sports reporter Tori Newman will give a rundown of all things Georgia athletics.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
You're home before sunrise. On top of the house, the kids, and our future. The smell of your cooking is our alarm clock. My Shiro's day is never done. So let's start saving a little more now so we can feel prepared for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give us the personalized tips we need so we can live our lives to the fullest. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Julie was always a voracious reader. She'd carry 2 novels on an airplane because she'd read one on a 3-4 hour ride. And at some point, I began to notice that she would read a page and couldn't remember what she had just read, and she'd have to go back and read it again.
I don't
remember much these days after I read, but less does for me, and I love it.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight. Both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand, trying to text somebody back. Because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
Thanks, Colin. Georgia football kept the homecoming celebrations going for Dog fans as it dominated Auburn 31-13 at Sanford Stadium Saturday. Running back Trevor Etienne rushed for a career-high 88 yards and 2 touchdowns, playing arguably his best game in a Georgia uniform since transferring from Florida last December. Quarterback Carson Beck threw for 240 yards, finding receivers Dominic Lovett and Dylan Bell for touchdowns. Dan Jackson led the Bulldog defense with 7 tackles, joined by lineman Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, who picked up 2 sacks for a loss of 12 yards. The Bulldogs still sit at number 5 in this week's AP poll, save from a wild weekend that saw 5 top 15 losses, including Alabama. For Georgia fans still licking their wounds after Georgia's 41-24 loss, the Crimson Tide dropped to number 7 on the AP poll after falling to Vanderbilt in the Commodores' first ever win over a number 1 ranked team. Continuing with Georgia athletics, Georgia softball opened its 2024 season with an 8-0 victory over Georgia Gwinnett College on Friday. Dallas Goodnight, Lindy Ray Davis, and Tyler Ellison all recorded home runs in the Bulldogs' dominant shutout win. That's all the time we have for sports today, but after the break, Grady Newsource reporter Faith James will tell us about a program in Barrow County that helps students who are new to the United States.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
You know, a lot of people say, when you're going somewhere, you don't want to look back. But I beg to differ. For her to see her father celebrate his graduation, it's the best feeling in the world. I can't lie and say it was easy. But sometimes you just have to stop everything and take it in. I looked at everything in a different light. And I realized it started with me going back and getting my high school diploma.
Jordan knows he shouldn't eat this entire bowl of nachos, but tonight he's earned that right. Because a few hours ago, in the middle of happy hour, he recognized a sign. Not from the gods or a bolt of lightning, but from a double heart, a kissy face, and a 4th ha in ha ha ha. That's when Jordan knew he was buzzed. So when it was time to go, he got a ride home instead of driving. Be a legend like Jordan. Recognize your buzzed warning signs and get a ride home. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
There is a road laid out for me.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
Leading down to the river. I am blind, but I need not see.
What do you think?
I know this road is there for me. If I'm really free, take me down to the river and walk.
A program in Barrow County is working to help students who have recently moved to the United States to learn English and receive opportunities to grow as a new citizen. Grady Newsource reporter Faith James will tell us more about how this program helps newcomer students.
Amy Wilson, a teacher at Newcomer Academy, has dedicated her career to helping students who have recently moved to the United States.
I hate for anyone to ever feel completely just simply because they're not accustomed to our culture and our language, feeling like they're not able to fully be themselves or fully achieve their dreams.
Formerly an English as a second language teacher at Appalachia High School, Wilson felt that newcomer students needed to be adequately served in school.
There's often that cultural shock. The school system is very different than where they came from in some cases.
Newcomer Academy, located in Winder, helps support those students linguistically, academically, and emotionally. The Academy mainly focuses on teaching students English, but also works to teach them math, art, music, and other subjects.
We see a lot more success in the school and in the high school, and that's based on what we observe from the students and what we hear from their teachers.
Former newcomer Michelle Mendez says that the program not only helped her learn English, but helped her grow and receive more opportunities than she would have received in her home country.
And then when I got there and I met Mrs. Snyder, she was speaking Spanish. And then Miss Wilson was speaking Spanish to me. And I was like, oh my God, they speak Spanish. Like, I literally at that moment felt, okay, this is gonna be a good place.
While in the program, Mendez and her brother were given the opportunity to start their own podcast. This podcast explores Latino culture in Barrow County.
I think it's probably one of the best things that can ever happen to me because that helped me to grow, that helped me to learn new things.
Grady Newsource, Faith James.
Over in Jackson County Schools, 2 students were selected to serve on Georgia's State School Superintendent's Advisory Council. This is a huge honor for these high school students. Over 1,500 students applied and just 75 got it. As members of the Advisory Council, the sophomore and senior from Jackson County will have the opportunity to share their feedback with Superintendent Richard Woods and potentially influence Georgia education policy. That's all for Grady Newsource tonight. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again on Wednesday.
During high school, I hung with the wrong crowd and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually, once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
He was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers. He connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
I think I finally found.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Mason.
Mason.
Got a new house. It's looking pretty cool so far. A place that I call home.
I'm teaching Louise how to cook some lasagna.
It only takes a spark to make a fire start.
Thank you.
Study, please.
I think I finally found a place to make my own. A place that I call home. This place that I call home.
All right, guys. Very well done. Nice location, choice. Thank you, both of you. Very well done. Very smooth. Live shot. Lizzie, I'm sorry, the code for your package was not into the script. As long as it's not in your script, they don't know how to access it. That's what Andrew said, that the cue, the code for your script was not in the rundown creator. Yeah. Well, probably they found it, but while they were in live air, they're looking at the rundown creator script. And if it's not in there, they can't, I don't know, enough to explain to you why it's important, but all scripts need to have that code for them to be able to play it on live air. You can ask Andrew. So please say hello to our esteemed guests. So I want to make sure that I have your title, Chris Snyder, very important title, Fox Multimedia Reporters Director.
Yes, hi everyone, nice to meet you guys.
And Carolyn Elliott, who is a proud UGA grad and now one of Chris Snyder's top stars. And we are very honored and very happy to have you, and thank you for watching our show. And as I mentioned to you, I've got really a very strong, I will say one of my most talented, if not most talented, and I'm embarrassing. Noah always gets embarrassed when I compliment, but I'm not complimenting you, Noah, I'm complimenting everybody. Yeah. So would you like to take a seat?
Sure.
We have some seats. I'll bring one more for you here.
Oh, here.
Okay. Yeah, so Melanie was our producer, first-time producer. They get about 1.5 chances for being producers, so I try my best to give them a crash course, and you know they do pretty well. So yes.
Were you an FNC intern? Yeah. Summer. Okay. I recognized you. Okay. Well, hi. Good to see you.
Madison was going to come with us originally, but she's still up in North Carolina covering Asheville, so yeah.
Yeah. So I will hand it over to you. Any thoughts that you have, and any advice to share?
Yeah. I guess we can start. So this is our third year in a row. We've been back. Oh, thank you. It's our third year back here in Athens. We're excited to be back again. I saw nice renovations you guys did in the hallways. Looks really nice. Every year I come back, it gets nicer and nicer.
You guys didn't see it last year?
I saw this, but the hallways are nicer too. Now, I don't want to get on a thing about the hallways, but it was very nice. It looks very good. Anyway.
Yeah, the hallways have, yeah, that's
Right.
new.
Very nice. So notice every year. But it's great to be back here. Great to see the newscast, but just give a little background on myself and Caroline. I'll give it to her in a moment here. So I'm Chris Snyder. I'm director of the FNC and Multimedia Reporters. So we're a team of about 10 reporters across the country, based on a lot of major cities. Caroline is based here in Atlanta for us, and we cover a lot of major national news. As you guys have probably seen domestically in the past few weeks, it's been really busy with a lot of news going on. Our team has been covering Hurricane Helene and its aftermath quite extensively the past few weeks. And right now, I keep checking my email. Forgive me if I do during this, because I have teams in Florida right now with potentially a Category 5 hurricane going towards Tampa. So
unimaginable.
yes, we're looking out for those folks there. So we're making sure my multimedia reporters, I have 2 down there, are kind of working alongside our correspondents and our teams from Fox Weather as we get ready for coverage. So the storm comes on Wednesday, so thankfully we were visited before the storm comes in a few days. But we do a lot of big stories besides weather, politics, breaking news, court cases, everything in between. I've been at Fox for about 15 years. I started out as a freelance PA, about 2 weeks out of school. And I've been there ever since. I've worked my way up the company from being a production assistant to an associate producer to a booker to a producer. Before this current role, I was an embed in the 2016 election. I covered, fun fact story here, my background a little bit. In 2015, I was originally assigned to cover Mike Pence when he thought he was running for president. He didn't run for president in that moment. I get a call. I'm covering Lindsey Graham. I'm like, oh, this guy's actually running. How exciting. I get a call 5 minutes later. We're so sorry we made a mistake. You're covering Donald Trump. And I was like, this guy never runs for president. He's in his 80s. He's going to run. And he announced the next day, and the rest was history. For almost 2 years, I was on the campaign trail. While I wasn't on air, I was embedded with the Trump campaign, covering him all over the country to 30-mile-an-hour winds in the middle of winter in Iowa, to Florida, Texas, everywhere in between. I traveled over to 43 states covering him, as well as I went to the United Kingdom for a week and covered him there. So a lot of the skills, while not on air per se, I did a lot of the MMJ work that Carolina reporters do now. So shooting, editing, producing on deadline, dealing with a lot of different people asking for different things all at once. How do you manage all that? I've been in this role as manager, now director, for about, 8 years in the spring, so 7.5 years. I've had over 40 reporters on my team over the years. If for those interested in kind of our team eventually, this is maybe your second or third stop after graduating here from Grady. We usually want folks with a few years of local news experience, because this job can be one where it's very daunting and demanding. Every story you cover is a major national story. So we want to make sure you guys are comfortable doing the work. It's important for us and also for you that you're comfortable out there doing all that. So yeah, I mean, right now we're just in a busy news cycle. I'm glad we made the visit to Grady work out for these 24 hours. That's also to Caroline.
Hi, everyone. My name is Caroline. About 6 years ago to the day, I was in the same class getting ready to graduate in December 2018. From there, I'll make this intro pretty short just because I want to get to your show. But I started my career in Wichita, Kansas, middle of nowhere. I'd never even been to Kansas. And then I spent a couple years out there before meeting this guy, Chris, and then that's when I came over to Fox News. So I was based in the Southeast. I was in Orlando for 2 years, and then now I've been in Atlanta for about the last 6 months or so covering the election. So, yeah.
So I guess we can kick it off with kind of feedback on, I guess, your newscast tonight. We could talk about that. I will say just one thing noting off, I'm on news side, but on sports, I'll say very great command of seeing you out there, very concise. Honestly, for someone who's in school, honestly, very clear, concise. You had good energy watching that, which is really good to see. If you're ever interested in more news side, maybe pursue that too, but it seems you're interested in sports, I assume. So, but I'm honestly really good to see that as well. And as well too, seeing your packages as well. They're edited well for college students. Those are like great first market type packages that I saw tonight across the board. I do agree. I think I've been coming now 3 years in a row. This is a very strong group of the work that I saw and the packages you guys are putting out there. I think really shows the kind of work you're putting in, and it's October, almost halfway through the semester soonish, so a lot more to go, but off to a great start it seems so far in the fall.
Yeah, I'm just going to echo what Chris was saying. This is our third year in a row visiting Newsource classes and watching the show, and I will say this is the best group I think I've seen. It was, well produced. A lot of the packages I watched, I said this could air in a local news market today. It was just very well put together. I don't know if Savannah is back yet. She did the...
She is? Yeah.
Savannah, hi. No, I thought your live presence was very, very good. Let's hear it for Savannah. Yeah, you did a very good job in the field. I thought all around it was very good. I know that obviously every show, there's no such thing as a perfect show, and you're gonna have hiccups and stuff, but as far as the foundation of it, with writing and energy, producing, I thought it was very well put together. So, yeah.
Well, we're open to taking questions you guys have for us about what we do on my end as the director and in Caroline as a reporter. We have a room of reporters and producers here, so fire away your questions. You want to go first?
And we have some mics to go around.
Okay.
Actually, we have one over there. So no pressure. That part of the room.
Okay, hi, I'm Ryan Lynch, and my question is, so I know you're it sounds like you're more on the production side and you're on the more reporting management, and you're more, obviously, like you're a multimedia journalist. And I've asked this question to other people that have come in, but do you feel that you can, if you start off in production, you could eventually end up on camera, or is it kind of cut and dry, like if you want to start off, if you want to be on camera one day, you have to start off like in that small market and work your way up. Like, my question is like, could you start like at a bigger station like Fox 5, like maybe on the production or management side, and then like work your way to be on camera? Like, can you kind of transfer from one to the other?
I'll speak to that from the management side. I'd say I hate saying this cliche, everyone's their own journey. There's been a mix of different people I've hired over the years. I've had people who went and kind of worked in our newsroom for a couple years, and sometimes people with a production background And then for us, we need people who have some on-air experience, I'll be honest. But if you had a production background first for a year or two and then went into local for a bit and then come to us, we kind of like that sometimes, because a lot of what we do is we do live shots with our Fox O&O stations across the country, so Fox 5 Atlanta, which I know is right in this market here. But we also do a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Caroline, a lot of times, will be fronting newscasts, but a lot of times she'll be in a courtroom. She's done a lot of court coverage for us. So those emails you send out covering inside courtroom are sometimes even more important or more valuable than just what you're saying recapping the end of a court day, because what's happening in the moment, we're 24/7 cable news, so Caroline's email updates are going out to 2,000 people in control rooms, and the stuff that she's relaying out goes on air with her anchors, you know, in the moment there. So what I would say to you is it just depends. I love a mix of both, but I think most people I've hired have been from local into this a bit, right? I think you would agree with me on that?
Yeah, but to echo again with what Chris was saying is a lot of times these anchors are reading your emails verbatim. So you treat those emails as if, you know, it's yourself reporting live on air, because a lot of times anchors, again, will just read verbatim what your email says without fact checking it themselves, because you really are the eyes and ears in that courtroom. You might be the only person working for your company inside that courtroom. But going back to your question, it just depends. I mean, there's, you know, he said that really it depends on your journey, but we're a prime example of this. For example, I've always done on-air reporting, but Chris has done how many different roles within Fox, starting off at, yeah, and so, you know, now he's the director of a program, but I mean, it really just depends. I would say I feel like on management side, it jumps around a little bit more as far as your journey there, but for reporters, would you agree it's pretty much people always just do the on-air reporting, and then
Yeah, I would say so. I think the biggest thing, what I would say for career advice in general, to kind of just build off of this is when you guys who wants to be a reporter here? I'm just curious. And then, okay, great. And producers, more like wanting to be producing? Okay. What I would say is how I got where I am today, a lot of times, is just talking to my current manager, whether for you it's a reporter, it's your news director, whether it's for me, it's executive producer, and just sharing kind of what your passions are besides the day in, day out, what you want to do. I'll never forget when I got the opportunity to be in bed. I'd been at Fox for about 5 years at that time, and my manager at the time, I said I loved politics. I wanted to get out there. I've been in the office, like an in-house cat, I'd say. I always say, hadn't been out in the field before. I really want to get out there. An opportunity came where I voiced to my manager at the time I really wanted to get out in the field. And opportunity came to be in embed, and I was at a fork in the road. I could have said no, and I don't know where I would have ended up today. I don't think I would be in this room really. But I said yes, I took a chance on it, you know? So whether that's taking on a project that might look daunting, whether it's doing something that you might feel a little uncomfortable with in the sense of not knowing the topic well enough, or having to take that extra shift to cover a different assignment, take those chances. It could lead to a lot of great opportunities. That's the biggest thing I would say, because it shows your dedication to the job and just shows who you are. It's not just who you are on a piece of paper. There's a bit of depth to who you are as well. So just want to build off your question there. Thanks. Yeah. Anyone else? I want to call. Yeah.
I'll get it. I'll be the mic person.
My name is Nigel Whittington. So for us who want to be on camera, like MMJs and stuff like that, we always hear the same, like you get a reel, you get some experience, you do an internship, but like what are things that from the hiring side you see that stand out? Like what are the things that, you know, every person doesn't tell us that we kind of wish or kind of should know going into these things?
Yeah. Oh, wait.
I'll share for mine. Sorry, thank you. I look at a lot of reels, I think on a daily basis, 5 to 10 a day, I'll say, because we're national, like we're really particular. I mean, I have had hundreds of people look to apply or interested and, you know, have had to pass on some people. And what makes for a good reel? I'll say this. The first 10 to 20 seconds are critical. Have you guys heard of that before, right? And the biggest thing about it is just having a strong command. I think the biggest thing I say with a reel is I love when a reel starts and it's like your best opening shot, your first 10 to 15 seconds of just looking at you in the camera and just telling me a really good, important, impactful story. Sometimes people want, some news directors like the pizzazz of, movements. I've seen shots of like people slamming down on the table and two people in a shot sometimes. And Caroline tells me how it is for the local news stations. It's different because I worked in Nashville my whole life. But what I would say is that's really important, having that first 15 seconds there when it comes to it. For my end, if your goal is to work in a major top 20, top 30 market on air, whether it's news or sports, when you want to work as a national correspondent, think of stories sometimes that can transcend your market that you're in, right? So what is that? Potentially a big national politics story. Like I look for people, when I hire reporters, have covered politics. And yes, it's important to cover our local county races and stuff like that, but maybe you've done a little bit on the presidential side of things, potentially. Think of ways that kind of make you bigger than where you are, and that could be to pitching stories and things like that. I'd also say when it comes to the reel, it's also like how you have a good diversity of stories in there. A lot of times for reels, I look for like weather, politics, crime, and sometimes consumer stories, I'd say, a good mix of those different ones in there when it comes to it. I think silly things that can be made for a reel is like just, audio. Sometimes I'll have reels, like I understand sometimes you have audio issues. Your reel should never have audio problems in it, or your shot's blown out, or you're not framed right. Because remember, the assumption in the industry is this is your best stuff. So if you're putting in your reel something where the audio is not working, well, that's a concern, especially most of you all will be MMJing your first role. Well, that's a concern. If this is the best stuff and you have audio issues, what's your bad day gonna look like when it comes to it? So that's kind of some tips I have in a reel.
So, especially if you're trying to, get a national news reel together after your first job, say you're applying for this team or something similar. If I was in Georgia, some of the pieces that I would be focusing on, obviously Lake and Riley, horrible, horrible story, but that is a national news story that blew up right here in Athens, Georgia. Hurricane coverage, politics. Georgia is a designated battleground state. Gas prices, flight delays, just anything that could air here, but also air in Los Angeles or Chicago or New York. So think of your reel that way. But really, whenever you're putting a reel together for your first job, that you need to assume that news director is only going to watch the first 10 seconds or 20 seconds of that reel, because that could very well be the case. These people are obviously very busy. They review a lot of different reels. So really putting your absolute best stuff in that first 20 seconds, even if it's, 7 seconds or so clip, tied together, just assume that they will only watch the first 20 seconds.
I think a good example was your live shots tonight, just seeing how it was framed. The lighting was good, the audio, like in your newscast, I would strive for ones like that as best you can. And the biggest thing I will say is for those, is just keep practicing with your on-air side. Never forget, first time, you guys all have, which is more than me at the time, I was actually a poli-sci history double major in school, actually. I loved politics. That's why I went into working in news. When I became an embed, I had to learn to use all the equipment you guys are all doing now. So you're way ahead of the game than I was when I was your age. And my first time out, it was bad. Like I had to learn how to work the camera, the camera gear, I had everything. And like I failed, I had bad mix minus issues. The audio had static, there's interference. I wasn't doing well. What I did was I went home, I was upset with myself, but I practiced every day. And you think that when you guys graduate, or is it juniors or seniors, or is it most seniors? It's all seniors, right? So you guys have what, 7-8 months left, right? Oh, December. Oh, wow. Well, okay. Well, enjoy these last few weeks you got. But what I would say is when you guys graduate in December, most of you guys here, think about that when you graduate, you don't end practicing. Even your first jobs, you need to keep practicing. I do with my reporters now. We deal with breaking news stories. We're covering major breaking news, trials involving a former president, politics, crime, breaking news. We were on scene here. The school shooting, the high school shooting that was in this area a few weeks ago, and we need to keep practicing. Practice in the mirror. do different scenarios with yourselves. I think the biggest advice I can give you all here is when you graduate, you're not done practicing. You're on the real world now, but you need to keep honing your craft every day. And you do the same thing, I would say, right, Caroline? You've been doing that since day one, I feel like, with me.
Yeah, and one thing I will tell you, too, is your first 6 months on the job, there's just no way around it. It's going to be so hard. I mean, there's no way to cut corners here. It's going to be very hard, and this isn't just something I've experienced, but basically anyone who's entered the industry. You're having to write, edit, shoot all of your stuff, and then at the end of the day, present correct information. And it's not easy to do, but again, the more reps that you do, it just gets easier and easier every time, and then that's when the job becomes fun. But in this job, I've been in the role that I've currently been in for about 3 years now, and this was different because I was doing local news my first couple of years in the business, and now it's national news. So it's a different beast. I mean, you're doing the same news gathering elements, all that, but it's a lot different when you're just covering national news stories. A lot of it is it's a lot more sensitive what you're doing. And there's a lot more eyes on what you're doing as well. So, yeah, but the more reps you get in, the easier it gets every day.
And this last thing I want to build off of this, the idea you put in my head with this question is you all have a passion for news, right? You all like the news, watch the news, want to cover the news. I'm assuming here, right? This group here. The biggest thing I will say is it's not a 9-to-5 job. I'm not talking the literal hours. I know it's going to be 3 a.m. wake-up calls or earlier for some of you all, or staying up late. I did that when I first started out. What I'm talking about is always looking for story ideas, thinking of story ideas. What I do is I call it the Snyder parents. My last name is Snyder. Those are my parents. And when I visit them, I think of what are they talking about at the dinner table. My parents are like local news consumers. You know, they're not cable watchers. They love what I do for a living, but they don't watch it religiously. And what I would say is, what are they talking about at the dinner table? You know, and I just listen sometimes. I'm sure you go out with friends, listen for story ideas. You see different ideas. I think what helped me to launch my career 15 years ago was, even when I was a PA, my job was cutting tape and making sure the reporter elements were there, very the basics. But I kept thinking for story ideas. And even though I was a production assistant, I would pitch story ideas and show what I could do. You want to show what you could do and beyond. And maybe you're starting out in a local market somewhere, you're doing the weekend, the graveyard shift, but you see this amazing story. Hey, I'm off on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. I can come in on Tuesday and help you with the story. That shows your commitment, helps you grow. A lot of times you think the job will come to you. You have to go to it and show that you can do it. Okay?
One more thing I will add when you said this is not a 9-to-5 job. So this last week I was in North Carolina covering Hurricane Helene. If we did not have this scheduled, I would be in Tampa right now for Hurricane Milton. But yeah, last week I got up at 12:30 a.m. for work, Tuesday through Thursday. So, and then I worked until I got back to my hotel around, 5, 6. So very, very long days. Some days it's, 12:30 in the morning until 5 or 6. Some days, it's a little slow, but when hurricane season meets an election, you're not going to get a lot of time off, and you're going to be working very long hours. That's just that's the reality of it. But when you're,
I would say this to your point. So our reporters build out reels. Caroline, I always talk about a reel. We always build one out on a quarterly basis, just to have. You never know someone wants to see your reel of your latest work, right? You never know. And what I would say is the first 60 to 90 seconds should be stand-ups, a variation of what I mentioned before. That first 20 seconds needs to be the best stuff. And what can that be? Either two things. You either broke a big story that you're covering, or you're on really big breaking news. Just show the sense of urgency there. Usually the first 60 to 90 seconds. So this is the first test. Step one is I get past the 20 seconds. Oh, okay, really interesting, keep watching. Then you get to like the second speed bump through the 60, 90 seconds there. Okay, interesting. I always say it's a bit of a difference for us. I know sometimes for packages, usually 2 to 3 packages. Us are a little different. I like seeing an actual live shot that will wrap around an insert package or a VOSOT. For us especially, we are live every day. We did almost 7,000 live shots last year, so I got to make sure, well, not just her by herself, divide among 10 people. That'd be a lot of live shots every day.
Yeah.
That'd be a lot. But usually we want to see live shots. So I usually want to see 2 or 3 stories. Of those 2 or 3 stories, usually 2 serious ones, and maybe one a little more featurey, lighthearted bit. You know, I'm not looking for like the county fair stuff, but like something a little lighthearted is totally fine. That'll help answer the question a little bit more. Absolutely. I forgot to give you the literal answer of what the reel was. Sorry about that. Anyone else? Sure.
Lizzie, there's one here. Yeah.
Don't stop practicing, you don't stop learning. So, because I graduate in December, so what would you recommend to me, my classmates, when we do graduate? What things could we start to do to like take on that next level of education in the real world?
So what I would say when it comes like, you know, practicing, if you're on air, it's like practicing like in front of the mirror constantly, like taking a story, like let's even say the most dense story. It's like, let's say we're talking about what's going on overseas, like the war in Ukraine, for example, taking that dense story and either writing a report, like a straight live and practice from the mirror. If you want to be a producer side of things, taking that and writing a script with it. The biggest thing I will say is writing is important. I've had reporters who, oh my God, they're like really talented in front of the camera, very charismatic, but their writing was not there. You know, I think the biggest thing I would say is to hone in that writing and keep developing that writing, and that comes with a lot of practice. Even if you are seeing a story out there right now in headlines, do a practice script, write through it, conversationally. You know, I can go through some examples from feedback from your scripts here. I'm reading through your scripts that are going live in that newscast, and I'm like, can we say a little more conversationally? I think the biggest thing I would say is when you guys write scripts is always have, you know, my colleague John Glenn, he is one of our heads of style and writing at Fox, and he's great with his writing skills. And we talk about writing in present tense, right? But also writing conversationally. Sometimes we think about it, saying the sentence back, would I say that to my mom or my dad or my friends, you know? So some of the words there, when you kind of think you're writing, is really important. So practice your writing. If you want to be on air, practice in front of the mirror, and just keep honing that in. You can't just check out when you go home every day. That's really important, you know? It's honestly, it's part of it. I'm honest, like, the work-life balance is tough with this, you know? I think we do, it's peaks and valleys in our team. Like, right now we're really busy with hurricanes, and we're also doing election coverage. But it's important that you also keep practicing. And that's what I did, you know? That's how I got where I was.
I will say, though, so again, I cannot stress enough, your first 6 months, it will be so tough. So as far as advancing your education after you graduate, it's going to be such a massive learning curve every single day. I mean, truly finding a story in your 9:30 meeting and then making air by 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., whatever your deadline is, it's not easy. So it's going to be a massive learning curve every day. But to Chris's point as well, writing like you talk is not easy. It sounds like it would be very easy, but it's not. And it's something that can take, you know, a lot of scripts, many years to develop. So I would say there's a book, it's called Write Like You Talk. I recommend it to any young reporter because it's we're not on the publishing team. But I would recommend that to any young reporter because it's very good.
You know, we talk about not having like the anchor voice or the reporter voice. We want to have your authentic voice is really important. We want to have your authentic writing and storytelling. I think sometimes, and I had this habit too when I graduated from school, I wanted to write like I've seen on Tom Brokaw do, you know, and you know, other people do over the years. But it's important to write authentic, genuine, right? Being able to relate to you as a viewer in your newscast, whether you're producing or you're telling the story, is so important there. You don't want to lose the viewer in that way.
We have 2 more minutes because we're live, you know, it's going.
Yes.
So we have 2 more minutes.
I'll be fast, but one thing too, I know typically you're reading a police report, you're getting that information, and then you are translating this into a script. I think it's so easy for reporters to say, the vehicle turned left and slammed into the car. It's not a vehicle, it's a car. You know, just getting police talk out of it is really a good standard way just to look at a script. And, you know, that could be the first write like you talk check, but also, you know, there's one, I heard the word, you know, resume several times in the newscast tonight, and that's not really a word you would, you know, use typically. If I was ever talking to Chris, I would...
Should we resume our conversation?
Yeah, should we resume our, you know, exactly. So just, you know, try to find those words that you just know you do not use in real life when you're talking to your best friend or your mom, and just cut that out of the script.
I just want to add one thing before we wrap the broadcast here is I definitely encourage you all to see what it means to be in breaking news. Caroline, last week, it kind of went viral on TikTok, and I'm saying that to the TikTok generation here in school. I'm a millennial, but I feel like I'm like, you know, older, I guess, in that sense. If you go on, Caroline did a report during Hurricane Helene in Valdosta, Georgia, when the storm hit. You guys should go and look and watch it. If you go on our Instagram and Twitter and X profiles at Fox News MMR, go on there, you can find it. It was Caroline reporting live in the eye wall of a hurricane for 7 minutes. If you want to see what it takes to do authentic, real reporting and just conversational stuff, just take a look at that. And, you know, not a shameless plug to more followers, doesn't hurt, but definitely at Fox News MMR, check it out, okay?
Thank you so much. This was very helpful.